Hello everybody, this is the Empirical Audiophile, and I wanted to talk about GR research looking at some Wilson Watt Puppies Series 8 speakers. The Wilson Watt Puppies Series 8 speakers were retired about 13 years ago, and he was talking about these speakers. They cost like $28,000 back then. Now you can buy a pair of Watt Puppies for about $39,000, almost $40,000. And I myself never really cared for the Wilson speakers myself. I didn't like the way they sounded myself. That's just me. So I never really cared about them. But when GR Research took these speakers and he tested them out, he found a lot wrong with them. And I see some of the comments are, what are we doing talking about speakers that, were made 13 years ago? And, for $28,000, think about it, 13 years ago, you could buy an automobile, a very nice car for $28,000 13 years ago when they made these speakers. And you would expect at that price, especially 13 years ago, that they would be perfect. But you see, a lot of these manufacturers, which I have talked about in my videos, they didn't make exactly perfect speakers for the price you were paying for the speakers. Even today, as I have mentioned, some horn speakers I went and spent and took like 2.5 hours just to get there to listen to them. And they were not that good. And they were $37,000 all the way up to $80,000. And it's like, these things aren't that good. My old 50-year-old L-Techs sound better. What is going on with these prices and speaker manufacturers? Then you get someone like GR Research who's digging into these speakers, and he finds out that the outside looks great. And then the binding posts, a lot of them are made out of metal with gold plating on it instead of made out of copper with gold plating. And then he's finding out that he gets into the crossovers and they're cheap garbage crossovers. And he proved that you could have 3 crossovers, he proved. You could take them and they will meet all the same specs. All 3 crossovers, yet they can all sound different in a pair of speakers. Yet they will give you the same exact specs when you analyze it with electronic equipment. So this is the case that the human ear can hear the differences between these crossovers where an electronic piece of equipment cannot. All it's measuring is what the crossovers can do. And he's proved it time and time again that expensive parts do make a difference in sound quality. Why do you think companies like, Conrad Johnson and Mark Levinston, Cello, all these companies out there use expensive parts to build their amplification or preamplification? So these parts make a difference. And you would expect an engineer to say, this doesn't sound good, or this could be corrected. Because especially back then and today, we did have the software to test out something and find out whether or not it would sound good. I see it video after video. A lot of these companies, for example, from Canada, actually have software where they're testing out their speakers before they even get put together of what different parts of a crossover are going to do to the way it would sound, a particular speaker. Everything's plugged in. But he did make a point with engineers, because I did a video, if you know, about turntables, and that manufacturers like to say a bushing is a bearing. A bushing is a bushing. It's not a bearing. And how they put 2 or 4 drops of oil into something. Well, any engineer who's went to school, Engineering 101, knows that you don't have metal on metal. You always have a lubrication. And if you think about it, even a watch, take a watch. Some of the parts in a watch don't move even more than one revolution every 30 days. Some only make one revolution every 24 hours. So they're not burning up the gears in a watch. Yet a watchmaker will lubricate all metal parts in a watch. He will lubricate it. Why? When some of the parts in there are barely even moving in a watch? Because they know they have to, and they use special oils for it. And I try to show you that in my video on turntables. Now, why isn't an engineer didn't tell them this is wrong? You should oil bathe those bushings and bearings. And then I find out from somebody that a lot of these companies don't even have engineers. They don't even have anybody who's of that mindset, like an engineer or went to school or anything, that are working for the companies to tell them you're doing this wrong. So I see people, they turn around and some are defending Wilson Audio, which I always say, don't defend the wrongdoings of companies. Don't ever defend that. That is stupid square, that you're going to stick your neck out for a company which should have known better, especially at a $28,000 price tag of a speaker that was made 13 years ago. That was a very expensive speaker. I was never myself really that impressed with those speakers myself. I just wasn't. I just didn't like the way they sounded myself. Yet I heard them lots and lots of times, and even at people's homes, where I've heard better systems at a lot cheaper price, better speakers. So I guess that's all subjective to the individual listening to it. But when he did that, I mean, he really upset a lot of people. But he's done that with other speakers, where he's looked at them and said how bad they were. And yet the reviewers gave them outstanding reviews. And it almost seems like a reviewer gives a speaker an outstanding review, the more it costs. All of a sudden it sounds even better. It doesn't matter what the flaws are, because no one actually, did you know, no one in a review actually takes apart a speaker and lets you see the crossover. And a lot of these companies are putting cheap parts in crossovers, let's say for a speaker, and the parts are, yeah, they're adequate. They do what they're supposed to do, but they're cheap, and the speaker can sound a lot better. That's what GR Research is basically doing. He's putting better wire, better connections. He's doing all this that the speaker manufacturer should have done in the very beginning. Now, with that said, I also have to say, I understand that they're all trying to meet a part of their income that they have to make on cost. And we all know that it's got to be designed that way. They want to make so much money. They want to have it cost so much and keep it in line with everything for the bean counters, saying that you got to keep this at this price, because if you don't, people won't buy it. They'll just go to the next model. And they do that with cars. Did you ever notice that? If you go to buy a car and then you say, well, I would like this, and I would like this on it, and I would like this on it, before you know it, you're only maybe $1,000 or $2,000 away from the next up car level. Ford does that. I'm sure Chevy does that. Everybody does that. They do it on purpose. You know, you can buy an Escape, and by the time you get it all tricked out, for about $1,000 or $2,000, you can go to the Edge, the next model up with more room and everything. It's like, well, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But they do that on purpose. Speaker manufacturers do the same thing on purpose. You know, they take a speaker and they elongate it. Before you know it, they can charge you an extra $2,000, $3,000 and use the exact same crossover, except add another speaker onto it. But getting back on track with stereo equipment, this is what happens now today. Manufacturers, they don't hire engineers. A lot of them don't. And some manufacturers are trying very hard to give a very good impression with the speakers they are making. I understand that. I have some speakers coming in from a manufacturer tomorrow, and I will be reviewing them. But this is a manufacturer that is more of a startup manufacturer that I will be reviewing some speakers about. And of course, they need all the publicity they can get, but we'll see what it sounds like and everything else. But according to what I have seen, this manufacturer is trying their best to give you the most for your money. And a lot of people complained about, let's say, the La Scalas, for example. Let's go with Klipsch. Before you could buy a pair of La Scalas, and they were basically either black or they were just plywood, you know, like a birch plywood. And you could do what you want with them, but they were inexpensive. That's why they sold them that way, the La Scalas. So you can get into them. Today, they've made them look a lot better. And of course, they're $13,000. And a lot of people will look at $13,000 and say, wow, that's a lot of money. Well, no matter what, you're going to have audiophiles out there. No matter what the price of something is, it's always going to be, wow, that's a lot of money. And then you have other people say, well, $13,000 for a pair of La Scalas, that really isn't too bad for a nice looking set, which they make today. They're beautiful today. Pieces of furniture where someone will turn around and say, you know, that's really not too bad of a price compared to other speakers out there that cost $37,000 or $80,000 for a pair of horn speakers, which that's why I think Klipsch tries to stay within that price bracket. And they know how much they can charge before they edge themselves out of the market of the middle class. And they know there's a big niche of middle class audiophiles there. Now, like I said, no matter what, you're going to have audiophiles out there. They're going to bitch about everything that's too expensive. And then anything they buy that's cheaper is going to be great, wonderful, and it does bass, it does everything. You'll see that in Chinese amplifiers and integrated amplifiers from China. People buy them and they just rave about how great they are, and then you find out they're not that great. And it's best off to stay away from them. And on the used market, they're probably going to take a bath on what they paid for it, because people are going to say it's Chinese, and the word has come out that they're not that great. But even at $500, $600, people are bitchy. So you can't make everybody happy, I guess is what I'm saying. Wilson has always been an expensive speaker. And 13 years ago, I heard speakers that were, 20 years ago in people's homes, earlier, later. I've always thought, wow, these are very expensive speakers. I was one of those people, I can't afford it no matter what. I prefer to buy a car to get me back and forth to work. Okay, so, but it's a shame. And people try to defend a manufacturer for making a speaker that GR Research has to get a hold of and says, here, there's reflections off of the surface. They used the wrong material. They should have used felt instead of this rubber padding. And you just think about, why didn't their engineers catch that? I mean, these are extremely expensive speakers to a lot of people. And if they go out and buy these speakers, they expect high quality from Wilson Audio. That's all there is to it. They expect unbelievable quality. I do when I buy a pair of speakers like that, because if I can buy a pair of $13,000, horn speakers, and they look beautiful, and you look at them and you see, wow, these are made very nice. Don't expect the crossovers to be top notch. Don't expect the wire. Now they've changed the wiring inside of it, but the crossovers aren't going to be the ultimate of crossovers because they're trying to meet a price point. That is understandable. But everybody today seems to be making speakers. You ever notice that? All speakers look great. I mean, really, it's hard to go out there and find an ugly looking speaker. They all know what audiophiles are looking at. They all look at the speakers and they look at the outside. I know, I've been to enough shows. Then they look at the back and see the binding posts. Oh, they're all gold and they all look good. Oh, those look good. All audiophiles do that. It looks like they walk around a car and kick the tires. You know what I mean? They look at the outside. They don't say what's on the inside. It's the same way with watches. You look at the outside. Ooh, look how shiny. Ooh, chrome. Ooh, shiny. And, on the inside, it could be, a quartz movement that's only worth $5 that you can get from China. But that's how people are. That's how audiophiles are. They just look at the outside. They don't want to know what's inside. Does it have enough bracing, and does it have everything that you want? So I thought I'd do a video about it because are we getting ripped off by manufacturers? Are they putting terrible quality in amps and preamps and speakers? Are they using cheap parts? Because how many people go to buy an amplifier, like this Unison Research here? How many people buy it and open it up and say, oh, let me see it opened up so I can look at the parts quality before I buy it? I've never done that. Lots of people don't do that. You go by the name. You go by the name Macintosh. Or you look at it and you look at the outside. Oh, it looks nice. And you don't tell them to open it up so I can look at all the parts and see if they're using, the right kind of caps or high quality parts. Nobody really does that until they get it home for a while, and then they want to look at it if they open it themselves. But most people don't even do that. They never open up their speakers and look at the speakers until they send them off to somebody like GR Research, and he opens them up and finds out what's in there. Nobody looks at the bracing inside of a speaker to see if it's been braced correctly. You just go by your ears. You go by what's at the salon and you listen to it. If you like it, you buy it. If in the future, it could be 6 months, it could be 6 years, you may become tired of those speakers because your hearing has changed or your taste in music has changed, and you may start saying, wow, those speakers sound a little edgy or a little bright to me. I think I need to send them off to GR Research to have them looked at. And people change. And manufacturers know that. And people who are selling the speakers, they know that. Your taste is going to change. Some people go through speakers, every couple years they're getting a new pair of speakers because they can't settle for what's there. They have to get the next best. They listen to them. Oh, that's going to sound great. That's going to, they never settle on anything. Me, I have 50-year-old L-Techs and been listening to them for 50 years since the day I bought them. Does that mean I don't like any other speaker? No, I like a lot of different speakers. But, I know through experience that you really have to listen very hard, and you really have to take the time out, a lot of time, to get the right kind of speaker, that you just don't go off of reviews only. And of course, some reviewers, they get out of everything by saying, well, you need to listen to them yourself. That's pretty much don't listen to me, because if you buy them off of what I'm saying, then you find out they're bad. Don't blame me because I told you to listen to them yourself. But unfortunately, a lot of these speakers or equipment, you can't listen to them yourself. There's no salon that carries them. There's no way to listen to it unless you get it and listen to a reviewer, of what they're saying. There is no way of getting it. So having a cop out of, you really need to listen to them yourself, they know you can't do it. Okay? They know it. So I just thought I'd give my 2 cents in there that, Wilson Audio was always a top-notch speaker manufacturer. And when you see somebody like GR Research pull apart a Series 8 Wilson Audio speaker, Watt Puppies, and he says, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is impedance is wrong, you start wondering yourself, what did you pay $28,000 for? Wilson should have never released speakers like that, not at that price point. And think about it, 13 years ago, $28,000, that was a lot of freaking money. Even today at $39,000, almost $40,000 for Watt Puppies, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. So you're really depending on that manufacturer to give you high quality parts with a high quality speaker and not be, fished into a magazine or to a reviewer that tells you how great it is, and it's not as great as you thought it was. Because after a while, you're going to start saying, these don't sound so great anymore. What's wrong with them? Yeah, they look beautiful, but, they sound just mediocre for the price. And that's what we seem to be getting today. We're getting mediocre equipment at an extremely expensive price. So that is my comment. You probably have something to say about that, but do you think the same as me? Were you getting mediocre equipment for very expensive prices? And is it destroying our hobby? So until next time, this is the Empirical Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, happy listening.